Yeah, not bad, thank you.
How are you, Laura?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah?
Hectic. I was teaching first year students, went to see a lecture that was put on for the first year students, and Simon Waterfall was speaking. And he gave an amazing talk, and I just thought, fuck, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to work for your company, because at the time in Australia, the industry was so small, and the capabilities that you could kind of play with commercially were kind of really backwards, and the UK was so much more advanced. So I thought, I've just got to go and work with you. So I just hounded him as he was setting up his shop in Sydney, and I went and worked for Simon for D&AD in Sydney. With web design was I've got a tattoo of a web on my stomach.
Yeah.
And there's this amazing woman called Rosie Cross who ran a magazine called Geek Girl. It's a hyperzine, a magazine and an online magazine. Where she saw the tattoo of my stomach at a market one morning and said, "Oh, that's great. I want to use your stomach on the cover of the magazine. It's a web." And I went, "Fine." And then she rang me 2 weeks later and said, the photographer's fallen through, so we can't use it. And then about 2 weeks later, she rang and said, "Oh, the person designing the magazine's fallen through. I don't think we're going to have a print this issue." And I said, "Well, I can put a magazine together in Photoshop." So I did, and then she said, "This is amazing. Basically, you can come on board and be part of Geek Girl, and anything that you learn how to do, you can sort of do." So I basically became the creative director of this thing.
All because of your stomach?
All because of my stomach. I worked as a designer and then a sort of a senior designer after that at Lateral, which was sort of back in the day a very cool digital shop. And it's where I met my husband, which is great. And it was actually because the two of us were getting quite serious, and I thought, we shouldn't be working together. One of us should probably go. And so I left, and I ended up eventually back at an offshoot of D&AD, Glue, which is run by Mark Cridge and Seb Royce and Martin Bailey, who are 3 just awesome guys. This place is dynamic. Everyone is super talented. Mark Cridge is phenomenal. I mean, everyone that's come from D&AD, so all the Poke guys, the Deconstruct guys, before they sort of came back into Isobar, Glue. There are loads of really fantastic offshoots. It was just a real hub for digital talent. So an opportunity came up at LBI as the group creative director there, and so I went there, and I remember the first month being absolutely terrified, going, "God, this is such a big step up for me, and I'm really, really pushing myself, and I wonder whether I'm going to be able to do it." But it worked out really well, and so then I got made joint ECD there with Simon Gill, and I was there for about 3 years. And then I had an opportunity to go and work at D&AD with Flo Heiss, and Flo's a very, very old friend of mine, and we talked about working together forever. Basically, he just kept on ringing me all the time, going, "Come work with me, come work with me." No, I'm very happy. Come work with me, no. And it was, sort of a good time, but I learned a lot actually going there about the kind of serious side of running a business as well. So to go to D&AD, I've learnt all the good stuff and all the bad stuff, and about sort of everything around kind of running a business, maybe. But it was really, really great, and actually set me up brilliantly for Mr. President, which is where I am now. Obviously the one I've got now.
Yeah, of course.
No, I mean, it is, now that I'm working for myself again, I don't think I could ever go back for working for someone else.
Yeah.
There was a time about 5 years ago when I thought, it's a really exciting time for digital agencies. The tide is really turning, more money is being spent, clients are understanding how society has changed because of the medium. We're in a situation where digital is actually, the creativity in digital is diminishing on the whole.
Yeah, I agree.
There are some amazing pieces of work, and actually some of the people, like Google, for example, are doing amazing pieces of digital creativity, but actually their platforms are cutting a lot of creativity out of the rest of the market. And so, there are other ways of doing things, applying that thinking to everything else. There's no doubt that big data delivers results, but are they exactly the results you want? You might sell something, but brand loyalty has just gone to hell in a handbasket now. There's no such thing. And to create beautiful things that people connect with, you still need to create beautiful things. That's very much what we believe in. And at Mr. President, we say we only work with clients who want to leave a legacy. And that kind of helps us focus as well on the kinds of people that we want to work with. It was before my time, but really the idea about Mr. President is that we act like, I guess we say we act like statesmen, not like marketers. They want to work with the very, very best people. They want to surround themselves with the very best people, not people who are, idiots because they're worried they might take their jobs or anything like that. They want to create value for other people. All of those things, I guess, which are sort of very presidential ways of thinking, the kinds of things that we wanted to bring into the agency. She Says is a global network that has been set up specifically to encourage and support women kind of in their creative careers in our industry. First, particularly looking at people in the creative departments, but really across every department, technology and design, planning. Ali and I set it up, Ali Larry, who's now in New York, and I set it up about 8 years ago now, because we were both in charge. So when I was head of art at Glue and she was a creative director at Agency Republic, and we were in charge of hiring people for our departments, and we just weren't seeing any female CVs. And we just thought, where are the CVs? Because 50% of the students are women, and even at very low levels, we're not seeing the number of people we'd expect to see. It's definitely changing over that period of time, and I think She Says and other things have really contributed to it. We realised that there's, when we set out, we didn't really know why it was the way that it was, and so part of what we were doing with She Says was to try to explore the reason why. But the meetings that we had were really, really valuable in terms of talking about what was going on in the industry, kind of training women to be smarter so that they could go back to their officers, allowing them to ask the questions they didn't want to ask at work. So that's really what we do. We have a mentoring scheme as well. We have an annual awards show. And we're in, 22 cities and 15 countries or something like that around the world now. So it's really grown. It's completely volunteer. And it's usually, some woman will have come to an event or they will have seen it online and will mail us and say, this is amazing, I'd love to do something, and we give them all the support they need in order to set up in their own city. It was such a kind of a male cycle and a masculine way of doing things. It was quite, it's very hard to break into. But as you're getting more senior women as well, that's encouraging more senior women. So I think that's really helping. That encourages the women to sort of come into the industry. There's always been this train of thought that you need to be really, really tough to get the good creative work. Yeah. If you're soft, if you're collaborative, then the work's not going to be as good or as challenging or what have you. And people have different ways that they believe in, and it's very difficult to change them. So Lee Thomas at D&AD had an amazing sort of quote about this new style of management. She sort of calls these people rainmakers, which is they're the people that are implicit in making everything happen, but they're not kind of beating people over the head with a stick. Yeah. D&AD president was such an honour. To come after someone like Neville Brody, who, was my hero in the 90s. Just such a cool guy. It was incredible to be able to kind of step in there as the third woman in 53 years as well. Can't is something that I set up with Simon Gill when I was at LBI, and it was set up in recognition that the industry has changed, and I always feel very lucky as a creative director. I get to go to Cannes, and if myself and my team have done a great job, I get to pick up an award, but it's not me. The world isn't just about creative directors these days, and there are so many people that aren't even part of the creative department that are now part of great work. But all of those people tend to get overlooked. because it's a big sort of creative director show. And so coming from LBI, where that kind of respect for what other people did was really at the core of the agency, I just felt it was a bit disingenuous to go to Cannes when there was nothing for anyone else. So we decided to set up Cannes for all of those people that can't go to Cannes. And it's the idea is to just take some of the spirit of Cannes and some of the fun that happens there and bring it to London. What I've got the most benefit from is actually all the travelling and seeing creativity, sort of rampant in its own spaces. So, spending proper time in India and actually understanding the industry in India in a way that I hadn't before, or Thailand or Japan, or I've spent quite a lot of time in Asia, or Brazil, which I was there, like I said, last weekend. And actually I've also used that travel as a platform to talk about something that I believe passionately in, which ties into Mr. President, which is creating purposeful work. It was a real trend last year, I think, in Cannes and in D&AD. I think they were calling it, good advertising. Yeah. But actually what it is work that has a purpose beyond just selling stuff. Yeah. Not everyone has the opportunity to do what we do. Yeah. And with that comes, I feel like, a real responsibility to set the right vision of the future for other people. To actually embrace the good ideals and to show people the right ways of doing things. There are hundreds and hundreds of school projects where kids are just saying advertising is evil. It leads to mass consumerism. It objectifies women. It does this. It kind of destroys the developing world. Yeah. And it has done all of those things. And if we want to, number one, attract the best talent into our industry, and number two, not be assholes, we have to be a more well-rounded industry, and that means we have to be obliged to think about all of that stuff and to make work that's more purposeful and to not be content with adding crap to the world of crap. I don't know whether learnt's the right word. I think everyone is creative in some way. Everyone applies creativity. Creativity is that kind of step that I think everyone needs to do as part of what they do to make something really, really special. Dave Burse has got a great presentation actually that he talks about.
Hello, Dave.
Yeah, when he talks about creativity, about kind of connecting dots. There's like I was saying, there's a lot of research around how creative people work, and it's about having as much of an experience as possible and then sort of being able to connect these different things. So as much as you can do to be as curious as possible and explore as much as possible and see as much as possible and read as much as possible, and that's where great creativity comes from. Mm-hmm. But I think great work isn't just about great creativity, it's also about an incredible empathy with the person that you're creating something or designing something for. And those two things make great work. I really feel like the secret of why I've had such a great career has been a little bit, we're saying, of that kind of Australian don't give a fuck kind of attitude, mixed with like a real excitement about trying new things, like putting myself out there into places that feel a little bit kind of dangerous, taking that leap. Of course I've had, when you do that, you have things that go horribly wrong, but you learn a lot. But kind of putting yourself out there and trying new things and scaring yourself and taking opportunities when they come, not going, I can't take that because I'm too busy or I don't know quite enough about it or whatever, but just going, right, I'm going to do this. It's really been how I've done so well. So I would just encourage everyone to get a little bit of that, be a bit naughty, ask for it's like ask for forgiveness, not permission. Just go and do it. Yeah.